Welcome to the Snowflake Sports Podcast. I am your host, Dan. It is 7:10 Eastern Standard Time, and I am joined by a guest who hasn't been on, I think, for like 6 months, but he is my beloved Toronto Raptors fan coming out of Albany, New York. It is Conor O'Sullivan. How you doing, Conor?
I'm doing good, Dan. Thanks for having me back. Good to be back on the podcast after a 6-month hiatus. It's nice to take my place as the official Raptors correspondent of this podcast. Good to be back.
Has to be. So to go over what we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about the Tampa Bay Raptors and all this stuff has been like COVID related and just like how to trade rumors, all this stuff. And then I personally just want to rant about how bad the Mavs looked. I think it was, Wednesday of last week? They played the Sixers. They just looked awful. I just want to talk about it. And then All-Star game preview, just to think about like the teams and all the like draft stuff. And then we're going to move to the politics side. We're going to talk about Cuomo's allegations, the two sexual ones, and the nursing home death reporting, the COVID stimulus bill, Connecticut's own COVID vaccine protocol, and Conor actually had a great point in that we should talk about our entertainment reparations for surviving All-Star Week, because there will be no basketball, so we need to, and that will end on a high note. So thanks, Conor, for that. I truly appreciate it.
Tough week coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, Tampa Bay Raptors. So just to give context, they're playing the Pistons tonight. It got postponed from yesterday to today. They'll be missing 5 players, 3 of which are arguably their best players in Anunoby, Fred VanVleet, and Spicy P. The other 2 that will be missing will be Malachi Flynn, who barely plays, and Patrick McCaw, who also barely plays. They'll also be missing Nick Nurse and 5 other members of their staff. So Sergio Scariolo, I think that's how you say his last name, will try to keep his undefeated coaching streak alive as he takes the helm tonight. So just first and foremost, do you think they should even be playing this game?
I don't know what the official. Actually, I do know. You need 8 healthy bodies. If their goal is to put out an interesting basketball product, then the answer is no. If the real answer is all these teams need to grind out 72 games to appease the sponsors and the TV channels, then unfortunately, they're going to have to put their heads down and mash out some kind of approaching G League level basketball here. Something I'd also like to mention is on Detroit's side, we also have out Blake Griffin, Dylan Wright, and Jeremy Grant. So, it's not looking good in terms of seeing interesting players play fun baskall. Good luck to them tonight. I believe they're tipping off right now, actually. So I will probably not be tuning into that one due to the absences. No.
Yeah, it's not going to be interesting. I mean, Detroit is the worst team in the Eastern Conference. And they, shutting down Blake Griffin just to try to trade him before the deadline, which is March 25th. And I didn't know Jeremy Grant wasn't playing. He's their second best player. Actually, probably their best player on that team.
He's having a good year, yeah. Oh, actually, he's questionable. He's questionable for tonight. Maybe he'll play.
Okay. But still, even with him, if Jeremy Grant is your best player, you have a problem. I think he's a great serviceable player, coming out of Q's. Love him. But that's the issue. And it's totally a G League game. Because I don't even know. So they put DeAndre Bembry as a point guard. That's what they said. Yuta Watanabe is probably going to be starting. Boucher. Though Boucher always really starts. But it's absolutely going to be a G League game. So the thing is I get the scheduling. I get trying to make money and all the TV revenue and all this stuff. But I don't think they should be playing this game. And it's there's an outbreak within the team, because on the Rockets game, it was only Spicy P, Nick Nurse, and the coaching staff. Pretty much, Malachi Flynn, I think, just didn't play just because he's a rookie. He hasn't really found himself in the rotation yet. And then, so obviously, if there's more people came out, And they didn't have the 8 players to play. I forget who they were supposed to play on Sunday, but they didn't have that, so they canceled that game. And like I understand that the NBA like tests daily and like they do multiple times a day. As a matter of fact, but it's just weird. Like you're still in like confined spaces. Like how like is everyone wearing their mask properly? Like I feel like the reporting wouldn't really be like coming out being like, oh, like we accidentally or not even accidentally just like took it off for a bit to like breathe. They are like I don't know. So it's like you want to stop the spread and stop giving it to other players, but you have to just keep going with this season. It's hard.
Yeah, not necessarily doing the best job of stopping the players, especially since this form of testing can if it takes a while before you actually start testing positive after you become infectious too, right?
Yeah.
Something like that. I'm not exactly clear on how this works. Also, I just realized looking at the schedule that by postponing this Detroit's game from yesterday, the Raptors are now on yet another back-to-back. So
Ooh, yeah.
they're going to be hopping in a plane after this one, flying back to Tampa. Oh no, they're flying to Boston to play Boston. Great. Okay. So I think this will be the 12th or 13th back-to-back so far this season. Just kidding, but at the same time, even with 72 games, this condensed schedule has to be pretty rough for teams.
Oh, absolutely. I think it was like the Spurs missed a lot of games because of COVID, and I think the Grizzlies. One of them they have to play like something like 40 games in 68 days or something stupid where it's like a ton of back-to-backs, and it's just going to be like hard like dealing with all that and stuff. So
Popovich just forfeit some of those just as a laugh.
Yeah. I mean, he could. I forget what the name of their G League team is, but he could probably just bring them all up, play a couple games, and then just like just be like, fine, if you're making me play, like I'm just playing these 8 G League players this entire time.
Yeah, I'm here for it. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Spurs though, because like DeMar DeRozan's been kind of killing it. At least when he's playing, he's been like kind of on fire. And that team has been like relatively good, especially where it's a tough Western Conference, and just like how they're somehow in those like playoff hunt is just kind of ridiculous.
They've despite their COVID problems, they've been somewhat consistent, which is all you need for like a decent playoff berth this season, because teams for one reason or another just cannot seem to string together a consistent run of games.
Yeah. Speaking of a consistent string of games, so do you think the Raptors can kind of recover from this?
Well, the fortunate timing is All-Star Week is coming up, and they're not sending any of their guys to All-Star Week. Thank God. We can get into that later. But, yeah, man, I mean, this isn't even like, it's, if they recovered from a 2-8 start, I'm sure they can get over this. The one thing that worries me is some players have come back after actually getting COVID and not, been themselves. So, knocking on wood, no one actually has it, and this is just a precaution. But, yeah, if that's the case, and this is all just nobody actually got it, then yeah, I think they'll be fine. Fine in the terms of this season, where they'll probably be, playing 500 ball down most of the stretch. Beating some good teams when the said good team is having a bad night. Losing to some bad teams because their defense wasn't there that night for whatever reason, because they've just been maddeningly inconsistent some games.
Yeah, I agree.
That's what I think is the most likely scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends on how long this is, and you're totally right. It's with the All-Star break, they're just gonna have at least like 4 days, maybe 5 days, where they'll just have no games and can kind of like everyone like go to their house or whatever hotel they're staying at in Tampa Bay, like just stay there, quarantine, do whatever. Well, not do whatever, don't go to bars or whatever. But the thing is, like, I just feel like this is like mentally draining when it's like, oh, like there's COVID in the locker room, there's COVID, in the thing, and like we've seen teams not be able to recover from it, or like even if you have COVID, like Jason Tatum recovering has not really looked the same. Like Jimmy Butler lost a ton of weight, and the Heat just like haven't looked good all year. But like just like mentally, how that would be so draining on you. I don't know if they could do it. But granted, I think the Raptors are like one of the more resilient NBA teams out there, and I just think, and I know like a lot of the players from the 2019 run aren't really there, but like I feel like that run had a lot of things like that were kept from like the media and from the general public that like could have broke out. Like right, like Kawhi playing like 60 games had to have been like stressful in that locker room, just being like, oh, why can't I sit? Like why does he can or sit for back-to-back games? Why do I have to play like blah 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 all that stuff? And but yeah, I don't know. It is also like they only missed one game. Like they're playing tonight. They probably will play against the Celtics for tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true. As Alex Wong of Yahoo Sports always says, never doubt the heart of a champion. And even though many of the championship team players are no longer on this roster, the Raptors have overcome bigger non-COVID related challenges than this. It does majorly suck though that they're going to be quarantining, like you said, in Tampa for a week or however long All-Star break is. That is not exactly the most mentally relaxing place to be. They're essentially like quarantining on the road or taking a break on the road, right? Like I don't know if they're going to be able to fly home to see their families or not. I don't know what the protocol is.
Right, true.
Yeah, but then again, that's been the whole season, right? They've just been on the road the whole season. I think it was sometime last week was their last game they played in the Air Canada Center last week, in 2020. It was like an early March game before they went on the road, played Utah, and then Rudy Gobert did the thing.
Right.
So crazy to think it's been over a year since they played a real home game, but them's the breaks. Yeah.
I mean, it's just hard, especially when you're the only team in Canada. Like there's just a whole border, all that stuff. So I don't really understand. Like, did their families probably didn't move down there for the season, right? Or maybe like a select few or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they were allowed to. Some probably wouldn't. Like if you have kids, you probably don't want to move them there just for a few months. Although with homeschooling, maybe that doesn't matter so much. But I don't know the full living situation down there.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on from COVID stuff, because that's always not fun to talk about. Kyle Lowry. So there's been a couple trade rumors, I'd say, the past like 2 or 3 weeks, just like throwing his name around, just because it's it's Masai, he could do really anything, even if Kyle Lowry is the greatest Raptor of all time.
I like it.
He's like an expiring contract, like it is like enticing to like say like the Lakers if they want to make a championship run, or someone that needs a point guard who really wants to make that push. So regarding Lowry, what do you think the Raptors should do?
Well, I think morally the right thing to do is to pay him any amount of money to stay and let him retire a Raptor and finish his legacy in Toronto. But this is the NBA, so I think what in reality they will do is this front office. They've shown that they can make a gutsy move if they think it'll pay off, like i.e. Trading DeMar DeRozan, one of their all-stars, for Kawhi a couple of years back. I think the front office needs to carefully take the temperature of this team. They've got, shall we say, somewhat underperforming team right now, and really ask themselves, like, is making a trade right now and trading away Kyle, is there anything there? And does it actually make them good enough to justify a trade? Of all the trade rumors I've seen, I haven't really seen anything that makes the Raptors better. It's more like they would be getting young players and picks for it. I mean, maybe that's the right thing to do, but I'm not sure. Like sometimes the Raptors will, go on a 14-7 run this season. I'll think, oh no, don't trade anybody. This is fine. And then other times they'll, forget to score for 5 or 6 minutes at a time, and I'll go, it's time to blow it up. This run is over. So, I am not sure what to do if I'm the front office. They could make a move. I think they probably won't, because I think any major move like that would have to have a big return. I don't know if anything's there. Like you've mentioned, championship teams that might want to get a good point guard to help them with the run, but I mean, do the Lakers have anything in terms of enticing picks that they can throw in right now? I've heard the rumor that Lowry's agent, Quash, for example, that he wants to go to Philadelphia. I'm not even sure Philadelphia can trade him. Like, I actually opened the ESPN trade machine, and it kept saying error, error. Philadelphia needs to put more salary into this trade. And I was like, oh, well, Philadelphia needs to give up all like 6 or 7 guys or one of their absolutely important guys they shouldn't give up in order to make this trade. So, not sure what the options are here.
Yeah, I mean, Lowry's contract's like $30 million. I think $30 million out of the dot. So it's very hard to move that, especially like a 1-to-1 where it's like, oh, are we trading Ben Simmons for Kyle Lowry? Absolutely not for the Sixers.
If they're not trading Ben Simmons for James Harden, they're certainly not trading him for Kyle Lowry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know what they'd really. I've heard like Andre Drummond try to get him because he's like a younger. They do really need a center. But like I don't really because I guess that's like I think Drummond might have signed through 2022, so it's not really that much of a commitment, and you could like just try to plug him in, see if he could do that. And he's just like a bigger body, like try to complement like Boucher, who's kind of he's tall, but he's just kind of lanky. And I don't know how that would really work in the locker room because it's just like Drummond, like he seems like he gets a lot of like empty stats and just like gets a ton of rebounds, ton of points, and it's just I don't know how he is like trying to build a team up. So I mean I've heard that, but like it just doesn't really make sense to where they're at. Like they started out 2-8, then they, like you said, they were like 14-7, or just like went on a couple runs where they looked great. Like Fred VanVleet had that 50-point game against the Magic, which he couldn't miss a 3. It's just like this team is fun, and I feel like you just like keep it together. You just try to like round out this 500 season, like maybe win in the first round and then get like pummeled by some team in the second round, whether it's like the Nets or the Sixers or something. But it's just like kind of keep it together, and then I think just let like Lowry walk in the offseason. But right, this is Masai. Like he thinks about like assets and trying to acquire anything for Lowry. But just right, like you said with the ESPN trading machine, being able to match it just doesn't really make sense. I don't think they want to throw Lowry in just like a terrible situation. I think they only did the DeMar thing because they were like, we have to just go all in on this 1 year to try to win a title, and it totally worked out. But like,
yep, that was a once in a lifetime opportunity. There really is nothing else comparable I can think of to that trade.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not nearly in that situation right now. So I think they'll just kind of pump the brakes and just let it ride.
Yeah, I think so too. Probably no big move before the trade deadline, and then maybe something will happen in the offseason. Yeah. I, doing research for this podcast, went down a rabbit hole of extremely bad Kyle Lowry trade rumors. Oh, okay. So I'm going to give you the 2 worst ones I saw. One was just straight up Kyle to Washington for Russell Westbrook. So what do you think of that one?
Oh my God, no, absolutely not. Why? Truly awful. Was that not the worst one?
I mean, I'm looking at. I don't know if this is the worst one. This is the most infuriating one. This would be Kyle to the LA Clippers for Matisse Thybulle and like 2 future second rounders, which I think are like the last 2 picks the Clippers will have for the next 8 years.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely worse because Lowry's like value is so much more than Matisse Thybulle and 2 second round picks or whatever. Like I'd rather have Westbrook, I guess, just to like have fun and like dunk or whatever, than Matisse Thybulle, who's like, oh look at me, I can play defense, but like I can't really shoot. Yeah, that's awful. Who said that? Was this just like Twitter, or was this like real?
I'm just going on like weird blogs. Another okay. Clippers trade is Kyle Lowry for Pat Beverly and Lou Williams. What do you think? Get the gang back together.
Ooh, I kind of like that, honestly.
Get the 2014 playoff underperforming Raptors All-Stars back for one more disappointing first round exit.
Right. Was that the Wizards sweep? I forget.
I think Lou was only around for the Nets game, but I think Pat was around for the Wizards. So
Right. Bring him back. Let's do it, right? I mean,
yeah.
even though that like 2018 Clippers before they got Kawhi and Paul George, that team was fun. They took the Warriors to 6, or 2019, sorry. But that I think is the best trade out of the three, and that's pretty obvious. But
Yeah, and then my secret trade that I think would be cool, but will never happen because why would the Grizzlies do it? Is trade him to the Grizzlies for, I don't know, whatever pieces work and get Jonas back here. Let Jonas finish his career as a Raptor.
Yeah. Yeah,
But he's playing too good. He's having fun in Memphis. I don't want to break up that energy.
Yeah.
So I don't see why Memphis would want Kyle. I think they're okay at the point guard spot right now.
Yeah, they're probably fine for a couple of years or a decade or so. But I mean, just bring it back. Bring Valanciunas. I mean, we do need a center. That'd be great. But yeah, like you said, that would be the one where the Grizzlies would say no. Like all these other ones, like I think the other team would say yes for the most part. But yeah, there's no way they want to talk or would do that. Any other Raptor stuff? Like how do you like Benbury and the Watanabe kind of these new like wings that kind of produce now?
I like them. It is nice to see new faces out there or old faces that get more time. You already mentioned Utah and Bembry. I kind of liked the Stanley resurgence that happened a month and a half ago. He's kind of fallen off since then, but Utah's great. Yeah, it's too bad his career highlight is getting dunked on in that one Timberwolves game, unfortunately. But I have a soft spot for scrappy wing defenders. So he seems nice. You mentioned like breakout season for Fred. Chris Boucher probably having maybe his best season this year too.
Yeah.
Loved when they went small as well. That was probably my favorite week right there where they went small and then beat the Bucks twice in Philadelphia. So pretty cool. Yeah. So that'd be the standouts for me is Chris Boucher having this bigger role and really working it, and then Utah coming in and being useful at least off the bench. I mean their bench unit can be pretty stinky sometimes, but Norm getting his groove back when he went in for the starters. Because at the start of the year he was coming off the bench and he was stinking it up, but now like he's averaging 20 points per game whenever he starts. Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I like when he starts more too because it just gives you like a bigger guard as well. Because it's like, okay, if you're playing Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry at the same time, you're playing 2 6-foot guards when the league is like 6'3" is kind of short now for a guard, which is just kind of weird to think about. But yeah, I totally think I like the new faces. I think they all like play well. I think they have a lot of potential. And like Chris Boucher, the fact that like they just cut Alex Len for like nothing just kind of shows you how good Chris Boucher was. They're like, okay, we're good at the center. Like we'll have Baines, which I don't really get. I don't know why Baines like starts games and plays like 10 minutes, and then Chris Boucher comes off the bench and plays like 30. I don't like. Is it for the tip off and that's it? Or
the all important tip off. I mean, we saw a similar thing back when Mark and Serge were both on the teams, where even if like Serge, in terms of like his skill set, was a bit more compatible with the matchup, Mark would almost always start.
Oh yeah.
It seems like Nick wants some kind of rim protecting anchor, at least just to start the game most of the times. Although again, he threw that out a few weeks ago when he started small. Like I think against that first Philadelphia game where they beat Philly, they started Chris Boucher and then immediately went down 10 points or something. So.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. And also like Chris Boucher's game is just much more like Serge Ibaka, so maybe they're just in that mentality where it's like start the rim protector first and then start kind of the better 3-point shooter, or take that 3-point shooter off the bench kind of thing.
And it might just have something to do with the rotations too. Like the rotations change all the time, but Chris Boucher has like a few games where he'll have stretches where he can play like 20 minutes with a lot of high energy. So maybe you bring an energy guy off the bench. The bench needs all the energy it can get right now.
bringing the bench mob back. Let's get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think it's enough Raptors talk. But glad to always rant about that with you. So moving on to the Mavs. So I watched the Sixers Mavs game. I think it was like Wednesday of last week or so. And they just looked so goddamn awful. And I forget the standings. They're definitely not in the playoffs. They might be like close to the playoffs. And in this game, they didn't have Porzingis. And basically, when I was watching this, it was like they were just like the James Harden Rockets. And they just kind of stood there and just watched Luka basically do everything. And there were so many times where he'd do like the step back three and he'd like nail it, or like he'd drive and kick it someone on the three and they would make it. But like for 17, 18 seconds, they would just like have Luka dribble the ball, or just, I don't know, like Jalen Brunson just like carry it or something. And it just looks so bad. And it's just like, I don't know. So like all that happened last week. They blew out the Nets, which I had no idea until I looked it up today, and then they beat the Magic, which is just like whatever, because a win's a win. But like, they just look so bad. And this is like they're supposed to make that jump, right? They're like, oh, they went 6 games with the Clippers, like we'll definitely see them in the playoffs now, and they just kind of fall off a crater. And I don't really know who to blame. Like, do you blame Rick Carlisle for like trying not to scheme up better offensive looks? Do you blame like other players on the team? Do you blame Luka? Like, I don't really know. And like Porzingis, like he missed a lot of games in the beginning of the season. He missed 3 games in this stretch. So like, is he gonna still be healthy like all around? Like, did the Knicks actually win the Porzingis trade at this point? I think that's still like up in the air, and it's just weird. I guess it's not even weird. It's kind of almost normal, because like the NBA is so cyclical now, especially if you're in the Western Conference, that you have to be at like your top ultimate game to like even make the playoffs. And if you just like falter a little bit, you just kind of work yourself out. But yeah, I just wanted to take time to talk about that. I don't know if you have any comments.
Well, do you think maybe your expectations might have been a little overinflated from their performance in the bubble?
Yeah, I think so. That has to be it. Just because Luka looked great. Like when you think a team does go 6 with them, that like they're gonna take it to the next level, and it was hard to see last year too, like how big of a jump Luka went from first year to second year, to think that he could do that again, and he had a rocky start. I think he's pretty much recovered from then, but it's like for him to go from like last year's performance and even this year's performance to perform even better, that's like a Giannis, that's a Pascal Siakam improvement kind of thing right there.
Right. Well, I like I said before we got on the call, I haven't been watching too many other teams in the NBA so far, but I when the Andre Drummond trade rumors were sparking up, I did hear some people suggesting he might go to Dallas, and I thought, oh man, Mavericks must be down bad if they're thinking of acquiring Drummond for some reason. So
yeah. I mean, they got that like Maxi Kleber dude who's just like okay coming off the bench. And I see he might be a power forward. I don't know if he's even the center. But yeah, I mean that would kind of make sense, because again, it's just like they need a bigger center. Like if they're trying, but like then, so you just push. Oh, I guess you push Porzingis to the 4, and then you got Luka playing like whatever, probably the 2 or something. And who cares? Because it's a positionless league. Why I always do this. I always trap myself in that, and then forget that like that doesn't really matter anymore.
Positionless basketball, baby, we're back.
Yeah.
Well, it's disappointing to hear that their offense is just being stagnant now for possessions, and it's just dribble, dribble, dribble. Like I thought when James Harden left the Rockets, we'd seen the last of that style of basketball. So
yeah, it's still there. I mean, I feel like Luka's game is like as close to Harden's as possible. So it kind of makes sense. I always felt like he was like a slightly better passer than that. And that just not proved. Also, right, like you got to think the Sixers, they're huge. They're playing great defense. They're playing phenomenally just like all around, really, except when they play the Raptors. But like, so that might have factored into it. But I don't know. I just feel like you got to kind of overcome that. But yeah, All-Star Game preview. So I don't even know when this game is. I think it's Friday. Or no, it's got to be Saturday. And
yeah, they're trying to do everything in one day.
Oh,
this
right.
year.
Yeah, that's true. And it's just, uh, honestly, I don't even know if the draft happened. Right? Like, is that like today? Is that tomorrow? All I know
Oh
is
yeah, that's got to
LeBron.
be soon.
Yeah, LeBron and KD are the captains. And they'll be picking all the like players. Like Booker was a snub, I guess, again, which makes absolutely no sense because the Suns are good and he's the best player on that team. Um, yeah, I guess. You have any thoughts on like who got picked for the All Star? Should they even be playing it to begin with? Any stuff like that? Or...
I mean, I'm generally okay with who people selected to be all stars, but yeah, in terms of I'm baffled by the NBA's decision to have the All Star game. It's like a coconut fell out of a tree and bashed the NBA in the head between when the bubble finished and this season, and they just forgot that COVID existed or something. And they were so careful about protecting the players, and this whole season has just been like, yeah, get out there, grind through it. We'll just test you twice a day, blah blah blah. And I this All-Star game. I mean, I don't know if you heard about this, but the mayor of Atlanta basically issued a statement saying, NBA fans, please don't come to Atlanta this weekend to see the All-Star game. Just watch it from your TV or something. So if the mayor of the city doesn't want you there, maybe you shouldn't be having the game in the first place. Like, again, the schedule has been really compacted and bad. A lot of guys are hurt. Do they really want to go and play like some pickup game with some of their friends and potentially risk spreading COVID around even more? Uh, just split the charity money evenly between whatever two charities you pick this year and call it a day. Or do what the NFL did with the Pro Bowl and make the players play 2K1.
Yeah, that would have been great. You could also, right, you could say who the All-Stars are, right, and just be like, yeah, cool, and then, like, just don't play the game. Like, it's just like, here's, like, your badge or whatever. It goes to your, stats for your legacy or whatever, but you just don't actually have to play the game. And yeah, like you said, like, just play, like, 2K21, and just, like, ball out or something. I don't know. It'd be fun. Maybe you could, like, do a Zoom call with all of them on, and they're just all, like, gaming out. I think it'd be cool. But yeah, it makes no sense. I would hope that NBA fans aren't going to Atlanta, but I wouldn't be surprised too, especially how close to Florida they are, and just Georgia just being also just like not a great state when it comes to COVID. But at least I guess they're not Texas, who did that mask mandate and are like 100% open now, which is just outrageous. Like I still can't believe that state. But yeah, I mean. Yeah, they should not. They should not be playing this game. I think that's just kind of obvious. I'm not going to be tuning in. I bet you like a ton of people are. Like they're still going to want to watch this like pickup game. It's going to be massively popular, so it's going to make sense like financially, which just kind of sucks to think about. But yeah, they could have just taken this time. They could have like quarantined each other. Like maybe even try to get out of this and like try to do a fresh start kind of thing. But like I think you kind of hinted at this where it's like the NBA was so good with the bubble and just like they had the COVID cases they isolated it, and then once they were in the bubble it pretty much was fair game. You can't do that for a season because like the players hated it for however long it was last year with the 2 to 3 months. Like you can't do that for like 6. Like that's just absurd. But yeah, any other All-Star comments or?
Um, the one thing that sucks is I do kind of wish COVID wasn't here because last All-Star game was like the most exciting one in maybe 10 years because of the elim ending thing that they did and the fact that you could like win a quarter. So it's not just like, it's second quarter, they're all just alley-ooping to each other, changing the channel. It's like, there's money on the line. Maybe if they had like kids in the audience losing, I'd be watching like, maybe the kids will cry if they don't get their money this quarter. Maybe the NBA players will feel bad for letting their team down, So there was some entertainment value there. So, but yeah, just even with the elim ending, not interesting enough for me to tune in. Sorry, gonna take a pass on this one.
Yeah, no, but I totally agree. Like it was like a pickup game, where it's just like, oh, like we got to win by, or you got to get to 124, and everyone's just like running up and down the court, and they're like tired. It was very entertaining to watch. And like you said, they're not just like throwing all the oops; they're kind of playing defense to like some extent. All right, moving along to the political side, the Andrew Cuomo allegations. So he has 2 sexual assaults on him, plus the whole debacle with the reported nursing home death counts. So basically, just the gist of, if you haven't heard, you should totally look this up. But basically, if someone contracted COVID at a nursing home and then had to go to the hospital, say a day later, and then said died in the hospital, that counted as a hospital death, not a nursing home death. And like Cuomo has gone out and like tried to raise his national profile by saying how well New York did with nursing homes. And like, oh, look, this percentage is lower, like 5% lower than the national average, all this terrible stuff. But since you're the Albany resident, I could basically throw a stone to his mansion. I guess, what is your take on this whole situation?
Well, it's I don't know a lot about Cuomo's career or what he's been up to before I moved to Albany, which was mid 2019. But this thing he's done with the nursing home deaths, and one thing that you left out too is that when people like asked him for what are the numbers, they just his staff and his office basically didn't release them. And when asked about it, I think like a month or so ago, they basically said, yeah, we didn't release them because, or like we stalled or delayed releasing it because it would look bad. Like all that stuff seems bad to me, and I don't know if it's illegal for the office of a governor to suppress information like that, but it probably should be. And if it is, yeah, he should probably resign. I'm just so livid because I'm pretty sure I talked about this last time we talked about Cuomo on the podcast, but like it's like you were saying, like he went on TV every day after this pandemic like really kicked off, and he was in like the little like windbreaker jacket, and he was delivering updates. Everyone was like, oh, what a great leader, and his approval rating was skyrocketing, and all the time he was doing that, like these nursing homes were just turned into like leper colonies, basically. Like just the absolute most boneheaded decision. And when he got caught on it, he like lied or tried to suppress the truth. Like it just strikes me as like so craven and depraved and so beyond the realm of what like a normal person would consider doing. Yeah, he sucks. Yeah. I don't know exactly what he's doing with regards to the probe that's been launched against him, because one thing I've learned about him is that he has like tremendous influence in like all New York State politics to the point where like information from the New York State general attorney or attorney general will like leak to his office. So I don't know how effective like a criminal probe would be against him, but it just would be nice for him to get some comeuppance here. I in my heart, that would be the nicest thing. In reality, it's probably not going to happen at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's been? I mean, the latest news is with these allegations of sexual harassment. This is actually breaking news for today, I think, or today or yesterday. A third person came out and said, he sexually harassed me. This time it was at a wedding in 2019. She said he put I'm paraphrasing here because I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but she said he put his hands on my face and said, "Give me a kiss."
Oh.
And this one, in terms of I don't know about the other two, but this one in terms of like credibility or proof, this is a public wedding with like photographers around. There's actually a picture. You could Google it right now, and there is straight up a picture of him. He's got both his hands on her face. He's looking at her with a smile, and she has a half horrified, half shocked expression on her face, like, I don't really want my face to be held like this. So, yeah, yikes, not good. So, and his his response to all this stuff has been, I'm not resigning, which isn't a surprise, but also just saying, oh, well, I now know that behavior is bad and I shouldn't have done it, or that's just the way I was, I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to do better. It's just one of these half apologies, but it's not good. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, do you, like, his approval rating is still pretty high. I think it's like high 50s or 60%. Do you think he's going to see any repercussions from this whatsoever?
So I listened to what was it? The Ezra Klein show was like a huge favorite podcast of mine just to catch up on news because he gets like very technical and just like very like concise, clear way of like defining policy. And then he left for the Times, so now I listened to this like Things Explained, which talked about like Cuomo is under wraps with like all this stuff going on, and then also back in your former state in California, Gavin Newsom is like under a lot of heat as well, but like for like totally, in my opinion, totally the wrong reasons because they're trying to like use this vote against him to recall him, which they used to get Arnold Schwarzenegger governor back in like the early 2000s, but they're doing it because he was too good at his job with like COVID, in my opinion, because he was restricting a lot of like restaurants from doing indoor dining and just trying to control the cases there. But then he had like a bad photo of eating at like a restaurant, and it was like in a bubble thing. So like repercussions for Cuomo, I don't really see one. They talked about like how he could possibly get impeached, and like there's been some state senators, I believe, who've introduced it, or maybe like in the state house or something. I don't think it really goes anywhere. Like you said, like Cuomo has such an overarching reach on the Democratic Party in New York State that like it's really not gonna happen. And I always have this. Whenever I think of Cuomo, I think of like a tweet that I saw like whenever he was whenever his election was last time, whether it was 2018 or something. It's like me while I'm 50 trying to vote out Cuomo in the primary, and it's just like this like old dude, or like this obvious like face, whatever the thing is that makes you look old thing that I can't really explain well. Anyways, like I just think like Cuomo is just gonna be there forever, and people like I don't want to say like you should vote for Republican, but you should try to primary him out. I don't know, get someone like I would think more aggressive or more progressive, but it's just like the way it is. Like he's been governor since 2000 something, like 8 or I don't even know at this point. After Pataki, so yeah, I mean, from your question, I don't think there is gonna be anything. Do you? Or
No, sadly, I don't either. I mean, for one, yeah, it just feels like, I mean, one of the reasons why, like, these first two sexual harassment allegations happen in his office is because, he is, essentially like an angry boss and a bully and a jerk, and he fostered like a really shitty environment, in his office that, led him to do whatever he felt entitled to do, including hitting on his staffers. So that's why we're here in the first place. And it's that same big ego shittiness that's led him to like have total control over the state legislature. So it just feels like, his power as a governor is firmly entrenched. It's not going anywhere. Like, even like, if he has the ability to totally hijack, for example, the distribution of vaccines against the wishes of his own state health department to the point where they all resign and protest, yeah, I feel like that's not a guy who's going anywhere anytime soon and is going to lose an impeachment vote against him, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's just
go ahead. Oh, and this is tangential too, but just an anti-shout out to the New York Times and their extremely shitty, consistently shitty opinion column. There was one a couple of days ago titled "Why Democrats Aren't Asking Cuomo to Resign," subtitled "The Diminishing Power of Me Too," and it essentially argued that if Republicans have really shitty guys in place and their party refuses to kick them out for whatever reason, then why should the Democrats do that either? And when,
Wow.
awful reasoning.
Yeah.
Go to hell.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just want to point out one of the reasons why Cuomo is probably going to survive any backlash against this from Democrats is because Democrats circled the wagons around Biden when this happened last year with Tara Reade. So
yeah,
they've kind of set a precedent here where they just don't care about any kind of sexual harassment allegations or anything if it's one of their guys.
Yeah, I mean it'll blow over. We're not really like in those Trump days where like some new story would happen every day that like it's like something like this would just kind of blow over. But like it is a thing that like they'll not take it so seriously. Like if he loses, or I guess if he loses the impeachment vote, but like in a way he stays in office, like he'll be in office for 4 more years, or 3 more years, people will like ignore it. Maybe he runs for a 4th term. I don't even know at that point. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. All right, moving to the COVID stimulus bill. So basically, what's going on is they passed in the House, and they added the $15 wage increase in 2025, which is just kind of absurd at this point because we need $15 like pretty much now. And then in the Senate, they like parliamentarians took that out. Now like people like AOC are trying to maneuver around the parliamentarian. I don't know exactly how that would work, but because they really just tried to jam everything into this bill to just kind of get it through, because it's kind of like it takes like forever to pass like a meaningful bill, so like why try to do that twice? And what just kind of pissed me off with this whole thing is they tried to like work across the aisle and tried to be like more moderate and all this stuff, and like ended up not doing that, and just like wasted time, and now they got to do all this time. Like unemployment benefits are up in like a week and a half or something. So like a lot of people could be screwed if this is not passed in 10 days or so. So I don't know, just I've just been kind of rambling this whole time, but give me your thoughts on this whole bill stuff and what's been going on.
Yeah, the Democratic Party, to me, it just feels like they're totally detached from reality, because who could have foreseen that trying to negotiate with the GOP on this would result in things being dragged out and them, trying to get unreasonable compromises set in. The Dems would just keep trying to kick that bipartisanship football, and the GOP keeps pulling it out from under them, so to speak. About this thing with the parliamentarian, I don't understand a lot about how the U.S. government works, but I hadn't heard of the parliamentarian until all this crap got brought up, because parliamentarian basically said, oh, you can't put the minimum wage thing in here, it's against the rules or something. I did a little reading on that, and basically the parliamentarian can say something like that, but it's at the discretion of the Senate whether or not they actually can include something or not. The parliamentarian can say, I don't like it, don't include it, and the Senate can say, okay, we're going to ignore you and put it in anyway. So all this fuss to me just feels like I don't know if you feel this way too, but it feels like the Democrats, whenever they get in power, they constantly say, oh, we can't pass this thing because we've got the House, but we don't have the Senate. Oh, well, we have the Senate, but we don't have 60 votes. Oh, well, we got 60 votes, but the parliamentarians said no, we can't do it. It just feels like any time they get the ability to get power, it's like throwing them a hot potato and they go, it hurts, and they drop it. It's just
yeah.
It's just they feel so ineffective all the time. Ugh, not good.
Yeah, I mean it's extremely frustrating too, because it's more like when the GOP gets in power, like I feel like they know what they're doing, especially with like the Supreme Court judges, like they know how to play that game. And then when the Democrats come in power, it's just like I feel like they're still trying to get elected in 2 years, where it's like, oh, we just gotta play to the middle so that we could try to win those moderate votes again in the suburbs, and then they end up not doing anything and end up losing those votes anyways because they're not doing anything.
I have a great idea to get reelected in 2020 or even gain some more seats. what you should do is you should try to do something popular. And I feel like the approval rating for $2,000 checks is like 105%.
Yeah.
If you just send everyone $2,000 checks, you will win every seat, every county, every GOP governor will be forced to resign, etc. It will be a massive blue wave.
Yeah.
But instead, they're dragging their feet and they're going, well, it's going to be 1,400 because 1,400 plus 600 equals 2,000. And now I don't know if you heard about this, but they changed the cutoff for how much money you can get. You still get the maximum 1,400 at 75,000 income, but it tapers off to zero once you get to 80,000.
Oh.
And last year, the $600 check went from 75,000 and tapered off to 100,000. So
Right.
Someone smarter than me did the math and figured out this is going to mean something like 17 million people are not going to get anything except $600. They're going to get 600. They're going to get zero of the 1,400. So all that talk, like during the Georgia runoffs, where it's like vote for us and you get the $2,000 was actually not true because they're just straight up not giving it to 17 million people now. And I think it's probably not a good thing to promise money to like voters and then not give it to them.
Yeah,
I think that's
probably not the practice. Yeah.
I think that's probably bad. Oh, and I found something else out too, which I think is important. This is like a PSA. They're basing all of this on last year's reported taxes. They're figuring out your income from whatever you filed last year. So if you lost your job between April 15th and now, you're not getting that check. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but the PSA. This is important. If you filed this year, they will use that income. So anyone who was making a lot of money last year and dropped below 75,000, like you need to file your taxes like ASAP right now. You could get $1,400 more dollars.
Yeah.
Do it.
That's a good
Pause
PSA.
the podcast. Go file.
Go to, well, not TurboTax. Supposedly, like, Hassan Minaj had, like, his weekly show or whatever he does on Netflix. Like, he had a whole show on how, like, TurboTax is, like, a huge waste of money. And, like, he shows you how to do your taxes online for free instead of pay that. I'll have to go check that out. But, yes, go do your taxes so that you could get that check. Though, like, to argue, like, on the other side, it is, like, how do you find their income unless you do your 2020 taxes? Like, if you don't have that, like, there's no way to confirm that, like, you've lost your job. So then, like, are you almost taking on anybody's word? But then at that point, then it's just like, okay, like, let's just give, I wouldn't say everyone, but, like, have the same standard where it goes up to 100K. And, like, it depends on if you like your families and, like, the child credit thing.
Yeah.
Just give them more money.
I mean, I would say instead of trying to figure out exactly what everyone is making money and trying to means test this into oblivion to the point where as few people as possible get it, just get it to everyone and then tax it progressively so that the people who don't need it lose it next year, and that's it.
Oh yeah.
But they don't want to seem to want to do it because any kind of universal program is anathema to the current Democratic Party.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it seems like you're talking about 2022. It seems like for the past 6 weeks, Biden admin has been doing everything in their power to lose 2022.
Yeah. I mean, this is like
they are doing exactly what you would want to do to lose as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, at least for me, like the 28 years that I've been here, it seems like anytime like you switch the party power, where it's like, okay, the Democrats now have everything, like then the Democrats are going to either lose the Senate or the House. Then it'll gradually happen where, like, the Republicans take power and, like, the presidency, and then they'll have, like, 2 years where they have the House and the Senate. Then, like, eventually, like, because, like, people just complain about politics. I do this all the time, and it's, like, easy just to complain about the other side than having, like, your team in the winner seat or something. And then it's like, oh, look at all these people. And that's, like, why these people switch so often, because it's just, like, you watch the news, and it's just, like, complaining about this thing. And then you're like, oh, yeah, I'll vote for Trump even though I voted for Obama, and then look how bad he was and vote for Biden. I don't know. It just seems like we're just going to constantly turn these wheels of, like, mediocrity until, like, we absolutely crater. Um, all right, so that was a lot of negativity. And I'm just going to rant a little about the Connecticut COVID vaccine protocol, which is also pretty bad. So Governor Lamont, I don't know no, it wasn't this Monday, it was last week. So basically, Connecticut had a whole plan on how they would vaccinate people with pre-existing conditions, like other essential workers, like grocery workers, people who work at, like, I think it pertained to fast food restaurants, things. And then he kind of just scrapped it last week, and they just did an age-based system. So March 1st this week, if you're 55 to 64, you could get a vaccine. Then it moves to like 45 to 54, I think in like 3 weeks. And then it goes to the I think there's another one that goes like after 3 weeks, and then so for me, in between the 16 and 34, you can get your vaccine on March or May 3rd or something along those lines. Anywho, though, so the fact that and then so the people with pre-existing conditions have to wait. It's like simply based on age. Lamont, the way he tried to swing it was like, oh, it's like simple, so like we don't have to verify through people's doctors if they have really pre-existing conditions. You don't have to verify through an employer if they're an essential worker. I think he said something like, keep it simple, stupid. Like he literally said that. So okay, and then because of that, people who with pre-existing conditions are like on average more people of color. Like that's also happens to be with like essential workers and stuff. So like Connecticut has had bad vaccination limits like regarding like race, just because like the setups in certain cities and municipalities like Hartford, New Britain, New Haven, they just haven't really had the capacity to do this. And like the higher vaccination rates are in like whiter, more wealthier town kind of things. And then also the like what they just opened up, the 55 to 64 age range is like one of the more whiter kind of age groups like in this state. So it's just like total debauchery. Like absolutely, I think someone like on our DSA Slack said that like referenced that this is like for the white brunch middle class Connecticut thing, which I just thought was great.
Yeah, but not for the people serving them brunch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to hit on that because I just thought that was awful, and I was totally like when we talked, I was totally on Cuomo's side. When we talked about all this COVID stuff and when his popularity was high, clearly I was wrong, and I thought Lamont was doing great too, and now he just completely botched this as well.
Yeah, unforced L, Lamont. Come on.
Yeah, come on in. You loser Lamont. Let's go. All right, yeah, I just wanted to say that. But we're doing something positive at the end. Woohoo, thanks, Conor, for this. So Conor and Dan's entertainment recommendations for surviving All-Star Week. There will be no basketball this weekend, so we'll have to, play with our thumbs, look at our phones. But we have recommendations. So, Conor, what is your recommendation?
My recommendation, Dan, is a book. I read it over the winter break before the season started. I thought it was quite interesting. It's basketball related. It's called Tanking to the Top, written by, I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, Aaron Weitzman. He's a contributor for Bleacher Report, and it is about the story of the Philadelphia 76ers and their multi-year tank job to build their current team surrounded by their two superstars, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. It goes into, considering that he could not get an interview with most of the main guys, he does have a surprising amount of insight into the behind-the-scenes machinations of the Philadelphia organization. There's a lot of good dirt in there about people who wanted to tank, people who disagreed about tanking, dysfunction in the locker room, interesting anecdotes about a lot of colorful characters. One of my personal favorites being how Joel Embiid learned to shoot the three-point shot by typing in old people shooting threes into YouTube. It's a very interesting, very entertaining book, and I feel like it's more relevant than ever because Philadelphia is back on top and has hired Daryl Morey as either their GM or president of basketball. operations. I forget which one, but yeah, and they maybe find this. He says at the end of his book, the process is over when last season was going on, but I feel like the process ain't quite done yet, so he might have to amend this book. So check it out if you enjoy reading interesting behind the scenes stuff about basketball.
Nice. No, that sounds great. I think I've definitely heard of that book before, so that's definitely a highly regarded book.
I think he was on the Low Post promoting that book. I think that's where I heard of it. So this is not exactly like a hidden gem, but I did read the book and it's good. So.
No, but I mean, we're still in COVID. Like, reading is totally like a permanent thing. And it's basketball, so why not? All right, my thing is, so my girlfriend and I have been watching this. Was it Last Tango in Halifax? It's like the show. I don't think it might be BBC. No, it is BBC. So it's like a British show. Basically, this old man and this old woman, they like meet, or they talk on like Facebook, like they message each other, and they're like, oh, like we haven't seen each other in 40 years. I know you're like, one of them's in Halifax, one of them's in this like town like Harrogate or something that's like kind of close but not really. And they're like, oh, we should meet up, blah blah blah. And then they end up meeting up. They get like tea, they hit it off. They're having fun. And like, spoiler alert for the first episode, like at the end, they're like, oh, we're gonna get married now, and they're like, their families kind of are like, what? Like, how are you doing this? Like, you're old, blah blah blah. And then like the show, it like just kind of unwind. It's like a totally like a soap opera kind of thing where it's like, this person becomes like pregnant or like blah blah blah, and all these things like just way over the top, like twists everywhere. But it's been like highly entertaining. And I don't know, at least during these times, I've appreciated shows where like I don't really have to focus. Like, I don't really want to think as much, just kind of like stare and just like forget the world for a bit. And that show's been great. I loved it. So.
Well, that sounds like that show sounds right up my alley, Dan. I think I have to agree with you. It is nice to have a show that doesn't go. I mean, I don't want to say in a disparaging way, because it's fine. Like a show that doesn't require like laser precision focus. You can just like watch it and chill. Yeah. There's like a nice chilling out show. And I will also say, shows with a lot of drama, yeah, thumbs up.
Oh yeah. Totally.
Give me the drama. I don't want like a boring show. Give me conflict. Give me ridiculous twists. That's fun. It's campy. It's pulpy. People use melodrama in like a negative connotation all the time, but it's good to me. Give me that stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do more. All right. So, do you have any closing thoughts? Any remarks for the end of the pod?
I just hope once the season ends, the curse finally breaks, and everything, and the NBA can resume to normal. The players aren't, totally miserable, and the Raptors return to the promised land of Toronto. That's what I hope. Oh, and Biden, send the checks. Send us the checks now.
Yeah, checks now. We need the money.
Where are the
now.
checks?
We need money. Yeah, I mean, just being able to see the Raptors at Scotiabank Arena now would be incredible, and just like, I don't know, just like Jurassic Park again. Like, I know that's probably never gonna happen, or like not gonna happen for like another 2 years or something, but like just seeing that happen and just having like that just environment kind of thing again, that's just gonna be great. All right, so please follow us on any social media that you get. We are at Twitter at Sports Snowflake. Connor's personal Twitter is ConnorTO. Follow him for sports and politics stuff. You can follow my personal Twitter at Lucky Profession. We are on Instagram at Snowflake Sports Podcast. But I am Dan. Thank you, Connor, for coming on. It's always a pleasure. But stay soft and snowy.